Ji Xuan. Upon hearing this name, Mu Chen's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes were filled with an icy coldness. This name was no stranger to him. He had been expelled from the Spirit Road midway, and this person was the one who orchestrated it. Of course, Mu Chen had to admit that this opponent was indeed a rare genius. Not only was his cultivation talent extraordinary, but his schemes and methods also far exceeded those of his peers. Even among the many geniuses in the Spirit Road, this person stood out like a shining star. Mu Chen had encountered countless opponents in the Spirit Road, but few were as difficult to deal with as Ji Xuan. Their clashes had gone back and forth, with each having their victories. However, the last confrontation ended with Mu Chen being expelled from the Spirit Road. In a way, it could be said that Mu Chen was at a slight disadvantage during this stage of their rivalry. He had anticipated this result even before the battle, yet he did not hold back. The reason was simple. A girl he liked had been bullied, and as a man, he could not just let it slide. Thus, he used a bloody feast that shocked the Spirit Road to bid farewell to his cultivation in the Spirit Road. Mu Chen didn't care about leaving the Spirit Road, but for Ji Xuan, the one who had set him up, he harbored a murderous intent. In the Grand Hall, everyone looked at Mu Chen. Though his expression showed no sign of emotion, they could all feel the faint killing intent emanating from him when he heard that name. Some were surprised. Did he have a grudge with Ji Xuan from Sacred Spirit Academy? Luo Li gently reached out and took Mu Chen's hand, the soft, cool sensation gradually calming him. He smiled apologetically at the others, and his expression slowly returned to normal. However, the coldness in his eyes did not dissipate. Ji Xuan, what happened in the Spirit Road was nothing. Since we meet again in this Spirit Academy Grand Tournament, let's battle once more. But this time, I won't leave you any chance to survive. If you want to play, I'll play along until the end. BTTH glanced at Mu Chen and then spoke. Ji Xuan is a special admission student, personally invited by the headmaster of Sacred Spirit Academy. Over the past year, Sacred Spirit Academy has invested numerous resources to cultivate him. In just over a year, Ji Xuan has risen to become one of the top students at Sacred Spirit Academy, surpassing many long-standing powerful students. Mu Chen nodded and asked, "What about the other 3 great academies?" The new student from Martial Spiritual Academy is named Wu Ling. He has also participated in the Spirit Road, and his grandfather is the head of Martial Spiritual Academy, BTTH replied. Wu Ling. Mu Chen was slightly surprised, a hint of astonishment flashing in his eyes. The name wasn't unfamiliar to him. He had encountered a boy named Wu Ling in the Spirit Road, a master of various combat techniques, ruthless in battle. He often fought savage beasts barehanded, and although he was often covered in injuries, he relished the thrill of combat. Mu Chen had once clashed with him in the Spirit Road. While there was no deep grudge, both had suffered losses. Afterward, they had crossed paths 2 or 3 times. Not exactly friends, but they shared a bit of camaraderie. As for Wu Ling's talent, Mu Chen had no doubts. Even in the talent-packed Spirit Road, Wu Ling was exceptional. However, Mu Chen hadn't expected his grandfather to be the head of Martial Spiritual Academy. With such a background, Wu Ling had still chosen to enter the brutal Spirit Road to hone himself. This was a remarkable mindset. The new student from Azure Sky Spirit Academy is named Lu Qingyun. Although he has never participated in the Spirit Road, his strength is no less than the geniuses from within. He hails from the Wind Spirit clan in the Great Thousand Worlds and holds a high position within his clan. Xin Songxing and the others looked at Luo Li in surprise, clearly not expecting that she had such a history with Ji Xuan. Luo Li gave a faint smile and said, "Her name should be Wen Qingxian, a very beautiful girl and quite skilled as well. At that time, my main target was Ji Xuan, so I didn't interact much with her." Wen Qingxian, Mu Chen wasn't hearing the name for the first time, but since he had exited the Spirit Road midway, he hadn't met the girl who claimed the Spirit Crown and became the most dazzling figure in the Spirit Road. Mu Chen was naturally curious about her, especially since he knew how troublesome those in the Spirit Road could be. Anyone who could make it to the end and take the Spirit Crown was no easy opponent. Wen Qingxian had managed to stand out, so she must be incredibly capable. These opponents weren't simple. Now, Xun'er is considered one of the most famous students in the 10,000 Phoenixes Spiritual Academy. She's quite formidable. Dean Taizong nodded, impressed, and said, "These four are the strongest figures who have risen from the other four major academies this year. They're quite dazzling. But luckily, our Northern Sky Spirit Academy has also produced a Mu Chen this year. Otherwise, we would have been left behind. Now, compared to them, who is stronger, Mu Chen or the others?" Shin Songxing asked with a smile. "Honestly speaking, in terms of strength, Mu Chen is clearly the weakest." Dean Taizong smiled and replied, "Of course, Mu Chen's strength can't be judged by appearances. If it came down to a real fight, it's not so easy to say. Also, the last 6 months will see the most changes. All four major academies will open secret training grounds, and after 6 months, the top students from all four academies will experience explosive growth and power. It won't be fair to compare now. We'll have to see their progress during this period." Shin Songxing and the others couldn't help but sigh. The four major academies really were impressive. They had originally thought Mu Chen was already very extraordinary, but now they realized there were other equally strong figures among the four academies, and these were all newcomers. It seemed that this year's new students were especially fierce. The Spirit Road was indeed no ordinary place. These four are just the newcomers who have risen in the four major academies this year. Besides them, there are also many veteran top students who are incredibly strong. Of course, excluding the four major academies, there are other top spiritual academies, some of which are just as powerful as our Northern Sky Spirit Academy. If we want to achieve a satisfactory result this time, it's going to be very challenging, Dean Taizong sighed. "Dean, if that's the case, let's open the Northern Sky Gate as soon as possible. We've been waiting for it for days." Shan Songxing smiled. The fire in his eyes burned brightly. Mu Chen's killing of Mo Xingtian had made a huge impact on him, and he felt Mu Chen was rapidly surpassing him. As a former leader of the heavenly ranking, he didn't like the feeling of being left behind, so he couldn't wait to enter the Northern Sky Gate. No matter how dangerous the training there was, he was determined to endure it. Li Xiantong and the others also turned their gaze to Dean Taizong, their eyes filled with eager anticipation. The last 6 months were when the top students from the major spiritual academies would experience a massive boost in strength. They didn't want to be left behind and lose face in the upcoming Spiritual Academy Grand Tournament. Seeing the eager expressions of everyone, Dean Taizong smiled with satisfaction and nodded, "Well, we're ready. Starting tomorrow, we'll officially open the Northern Sky Gate." Everyone was both excited and nervous upon hearing this. Mu Chen pursed his lips. He was also very curious about the so-called Northern Sky Gate. His current strength was still a bit too low. Though he had killed Mo Xingtian, it came at a heavy price. He couldn't afford to always fight these kinds of opponents where both sides ended up badly injured. In the end, strength was the most important factor. After all, his opponents weren't weak either. They also had their methods. This would highlight the gap in their abilities. Thus, he had to make sure his strength was greatly improved by the time the Spiritual Academy Grand Tournament began 6 months later. The Northern Sky Gate will be temporarily open only to the top 10 on the heavenly ranking. Suddenly, North Abyss Dragon Kuren spoke up. His gaze swept over the crowd before finally landing on Mu Chen. "And Mu Chen, you don't need to enter the Northern Sky Gate this time." Everyone was taken aback, and Mu Chen froze, staring at North Abyss Dragon Kuren in shock. North Abyss Dragon Kuren grinned, but his smile sent a chill down Mu Chen's spine. "In the next 6 months, I will personally conduct special training for you." "Special training?" Mu Chen was stunned, staring at North Abyss Dragon Kuren. Seeing the smile on his face, he felt a bit uneasy and immediately forced a dry laugh. "Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Doesn't our Northern Sky Spirit Academy emphasize equality? It doesn't seem quite right for me to get special treatment." North Abyss Dragon Kuren rolled his eyes and replied in an unkind tone, "Because your strength is the weakest among everyone. The Northern Sky Gate is in that 8th grade Spirit Gathering Array, and while entering will improve your training, you won't reach your limit. So, stop pretending to be modest. If it weren't for your great performance on Sacred Spirit Mountain, I wouldn't bother with you." Everyone laughed upon hearing this, and Shan Songxing patted Mu Chen's shoulder, saying, Since Lord North Abyss has taken such an interest in you, just accept the special training. But remember, after 6 months, when we come out of the Northern Sky Gate, if you've fallen too far behind, don't blame us for coming after you for some sparring. I'm sure they're looking forward to kicking you down a notch." Li Xintong, He Yao, Zhao Qingshan, and the others all turned their gazes toward Mu Chen, their eyes full of anticipation. This made Mu Chen's lips twitch. Su Xian smiled softly, covering her mouth, her smile captivating. Mu Chen let out a bitter smile and shook his head, choosing to ignore them. He turned to Luo Li, feeling reluctant as he said, "So I won't be able to see you for half a year?" Luo Li's face flushed slightly, her gaze softened by Mu Chen's lingering attachment. She held his hand gently and whispered, "It's fine. You should focus on your training in these last 6 months. If I'm not around, you won't get distracted. But you better not slack off, or by the time we reunite, we might have left you far behind." Mu Chen smiled helplessly, feeling some pressure. The North Song Gate seemed to offer tremendous benefits for cultivating strength. With the talents of Shan Songxing, Li Xintong, and Luo Li, if they focused on training for half a year, their strength would undoubtedly soar. By the time they left, they might have encountered the 3 minor tribulations. If Mu Chen hadn't made much progress by then, he would truly be left behind. All right, everyone, head back for now and prepare for tomorrow's entrance into the North Song Gate. Once you enter, you won't be coming out until 6 months later, said Dean Taitsong, waving his hand. Yes, everyone responded, turning and leaving. Dean Taitsong watched the young ones depart, letting out a sigh of relief. As the lines of light grew brighter, the heavy bronze gate, which had been tightly shut, finally creaked open with a deep, resounding sound. Light surged upward into the sky. With the opening of the bronze gate, a massive wave of spiritual energy rushed out, covering the sky and earth. The energy was so vast that it transformed into a tornado, wildly wreaking havoc, its spiritual essence spreading across the entire North Song Spirit Academy. Immediately, countless students felt a surge of energy, the spiritual energy in the air now several times thicker than usual. The Hall Master Mou and Elder Zhu Tian will accompany you into the North Song Gate. If anything goes wrong, they will immediately bring you out, the Dean of Taitsong said sternly. Within the North Song Gate, the spiritual energy is too overwhelming. Any small disturbance could cause the very heavens and earth to collapse. So, you must proceed with extreme caution. Understood. Shen Songxing and the others immediately responded respectfully. If you're ready, then go ahead. The Dean of Taitsong nodded and said, "Let's go." Shen Songxing was the first to charge forward, heading straight for the North Song Gate. Behind him, Li Xintong, Su Xian, He Yao, and the others took a deep breath and quickly followed. Luo Li was last. She turned to glance at Mu Chen beside her, offering a soft smile. "I'm going in now. You must practice well with Senior North Abyss in the next 6 months." Mu Chen looked at the girl in front of him, feeling a deep reluctance. 6 months without seeing her. How could he bear it? With a sigh, he reached out, pulling her into a gentle embrace and placing a soft kiss on her smooth forehead. "Be careful." Luo Li's face flushed slightly, then she nodded and pushed away from Mu Chen's chest. Without further hesitation, she turned and gracefully entered the massive bronze gate, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Following her, Hall Master Mou and the others entered as well. As they did, the huge bronze gate slowly began to close once more, sealing away the terrifyingly vast spiritual power in that isolated space. "Do you have some kind of past with that Ji Xuan from Sacred Spirit Academy?" North Abyss Dragon Kuan stood beside Mu Chen, smiling faintly. Mu Chen nodded slightly, his voice quiet. "A life-and-death feud. I should warn you," North Abyss Dragon Kuan continued, "Ji Xuan is no easy opponent. His performance at Sacred Spirit Academy is just as formidable as yours. Though you defeated Mo Xingtian at Sacred Spirit Mountain, we've learned that 2 months ago, Ji Xuan wiped out an entire sect by himself. This sect had 3 members who had passed the first of the 3 minor tribulations." Mu Chen's pupils contracted. He wiped out a sect with 3 powerful tribulation survivors. The difficulty of that was beyond anything he'd faced when slaying Mu Chen. Ji Xuan truly was a formidable rival. Sacred Spirit Academy has a place called Sacred Spirit Heaven, similar to our North Cang Gate, a secret training ground for them. Ji Xuan is already inside, and in 6 months, his strength will be even more terrifying. If by then you still only possess this level of power, don't bother competing in the Spirit Academy Grand Competition. You won't stand a chance against him. Mu Chen listened, smiling faintly. He turned to North Abyss Dragon Xuan, speaking calmly. Senior North Abyss, you don't need to try and provoke me. Over the next 6 months, I'll take on whatever special training you have. As long as it's within your capability, don't worry about me holding back. No matter how strong Ji Xuan gets, I'll deal with him in this Spirit Academy Grand Competition. North Abyss Dragon Xuan's eyes narrowed slightly, a smile appearing on his aged face. Good boy, you've got guts. Mu Chen smiled back, lifting his head and gazing at the sky, his black eyes gleaming with cold intent. Ji Xuan, this time, we'll have a proper battle. The day after Luo Li and the others entered the North Cang Gate for their training, Mu Chen, under the guidance of North Abyss Dragon Xuan, arrived at a familiar yet somewhat unsettling place. The last layer of the Thunder Domain at North Cang Spirit Academy. Boom. In the dark space, the vast Thunder Sea stretched endlessly across the horizon. At a glance, there was no end in sight. The Thunder Sea roiled, with massive black divine thunder roaring like an enraged dragon. Mu Chen stood at the final layer of the Thunder Domain, gazing up at the pitch-black Thunder Sea. Although he had entered it before, it still caused his heart to flutter. The sheer darkness exuded an oppressive feeling, as though anything that entered would be devoured by it. Senior North Abyss, how should we train here? Mu Chen looked at the thunder rivers cascading from the Thunder Sea, unable to stop himself from grinning. He then cautiously asked. The North Abyss Dragon Xuan scratched his bald head, looking somewhat comical. He didn't resemble the formidable figure of a guardian at the Northern Sky Spirit Academy at all. He glanced at Mu Chen, curling his lips as he said, How is your Thunder God Body cultivation coming along? 2-rune Thunder Body, Mu Chen replied honestly. The North Abyss Dragon Xuan raised an eyebrow and casually nodded. Not bad, but over the next period, you must cultivate your Thunder God Body to the 4-rune Thunder Body. Mu Chen was shocked. The body forging divine art was already difficult to cultivate, and the Thunder God Body was one of its toughest forms. It took him tremendous effort just to reach the 2-rune Thunder Body level. Now, jumping straight to the 4-rune Thunder Body? That would be no easy feat. During the next period, you will stay in there to train. No leaving, the North Abyss Dragon Xuan said, pointing to the vast Thunder Sea that stretched across the space. He continued nonchalantly, and no using the black divine thunder poison to mask your fluctuations. Mu Chen froze for a moment, his scalp tingling. He had experienced the horror of the Thunder Sea firsthand. The last time he ventured into it, he was able to survive only by using the black divine thunder poison to conceal his presence. But now, the North Abyss Dragon Xuan forbade him from hiding his aura. Wasn't that asking him to invite an attack from countless black divine thunder as soon as he entered? Though his strength had grown since then, it was still nothing compared to the terrifying black divine thunder. Moreover, he vividly remembered the thunder spirit in the Thunder Sea, a presence so powerful that even the North Abyss Dragon Xuan found it troublesome. If he disturbed it, even a single strike from it could turn him to ashes. The Thunder Sea condenses the power of countless black divine thunders, making it the perfect place to refine your Thunder God Body. Plus, within the black divine thunder, there's immense power. If you can endure it, it will greatly benefit your cultivation. It won't be any weaker than training in the Northern Sky Gate, said the North Abyss Dragon Xuan lazily. Of course, if you're afraid, we can choose the usual methods. But by the time 6 months pass and Shan Zongxing, Li Xiantong, and the others emerge, they'll likely leave you far behind. Mu Chen chuckled at his provoking words, shaking his head with a smile. He said no more, just nodded lightly. Let's begin then. Now that's more like it. The North Abyss Dragon Xuan nodded in approval. As for the Thunder Spirit, don't worry. I've sealed it. Feel free to train in the Thunder Sea as long as you can bear it. The North Abyss Dragon Kuan pondered for a moment, and with a swift motion of his dry hand, a bolt of black lightning materialized in his palm. It transformed into a black jade slip that shimmered with thunderous energy. With a flick of his finger, he sent it flying toward Mu Chen, who quickly caught it, puzzled. On the jade slip, 3 ancient words formed by thunderlight were etched. Thunder Control Art. Thunder Control Art? Mu Chen blinked, confused. Is this an offensive divine art? Divine art? The North Abyss Dragon Kuan snorted. You unworldly brat, this isn't a divine art. It's a divine technique. Divine technique? Mu Chen's heart skipped a beat. Between heaven and earth, the myriad techniques were unfathomable, and divine arts were just one of them. A divine technique, however, was far more mysterious and powerful. It was said that the heavens contained many incredible powers, and when these powers were harnessed, they could unleash devastating strength. Such methods were called divine techniques. But divine techniques were notoriously difficult to master, and their formulas were rare. Even those at the supreme stage regarded them as treasures. Mu Chen had only heard whispers of them before, but had never actually seen one. Generally speaking, divine arts are things that only supreme-level experts can dabble in, but this thunder control art shares some similarities with the thunder god body you've cultivated. As long as you can comprehend the thunder intent, you will be able to successfully cultivate it. When facing an enemy, with a thought, you can summon thunder, and its power is extraordinary, North Abyss Dragon Kuan said slowly. Summon thunder? Mu Chen's eyes were filled with awe. Is this the divine art? It's truly impressive. Some special divine techniques can also summon thunder to fight, but Mu Chen knew that this thunder wasn't pure. Most of it is condensed from spiritual energy, not true heavenly thunder. But this so-called thunder control art can actually do that. From this, it's clear that this divine art is indeed more profound than a divine technique. Divine arts are difficult to cultivate. When you train in the Thunder Sea, take your time to comprehend it, North Abyss Dragon Kuan said, with his hands casually tucked into his sleeves, showing no intention of giving Mu Chen a detailed explanation. Mu Chen could only helplessly nod, storing the thunder control art away. He then looked up at the dark Thunder Sea, taking a deep breath. His black eyes grew colder. Since he had decided to accept the special training, he wouldn't back down. If he wanted great power, he needed to make equal sacrifices. Power that comes easily is something Mu Chen dislikes, because it's unreliable. If you can't endure in the Thunder Sea, take out your Thunder God Lotus. It can protect you, North Abyss Dragon Kuan said slowly. Okay. Mu Chen nodded lightly. With a stomp of his foot, his figure shot into the sky like a Kuan-pung. He activated his immense spiritual energy to shield his body, and thunder light flickered around his body. Clearly, the Thunder God body was also in motion. The Thunder Sea before him was undoubtedly a deadly place, and he had to be cautious. Boom. Outside the Thunder Sea, countless black lightning bolts roared. It seemed that they sensed Mu Chen's approach, and thunder roared as bolts of lightning crashed down on him from all directions. Zzzzzzz. The arcs of lightning exploded on Mu Chen's body, and his clothes were instantly reduced to ashes. Intense pain spread across his body, but his expression remained unchanged. After all, he had cultivated the Thunder God body to a small extent. With the external black divine lightning, he could easily endure it. However, Mu Chen didn't underestimate it because he knew the truly terrifying black divine lightning was hidden deep within the Thunder Sea. These external black divine lightning were nothing compared to it. Whoosh! Mu Chen moved rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, he neared the pitch-black Thunder Sea. He looked at the oppressive darkness that made his heart race, exhaled deeply, and stomped on the air. With a thud, his body plunged into the dark Thunder Sea. Zzzzz. As Mu Chen's body entered the Thunder Sea, he immediately felt the violent, thunderous power raging around him. The last time he entered, the black divine lightning had concealed him, so the Thunder Sea didn't affect him. But now, as he rushed in, he finally felt the immense power hidden within the Thunder Sea. Endless spiritual energy surged from within Mu Chen's body, resisting the corrosion of the thunderous power. After diving over 1,000 meters into the Thunder Sea, he slowed down, sitting down cross-legged. 2 thunder runes flashed on his chest, and arcs of black lightning danced across his body. Around him, immense spiritual energy rippled outward, forcing the black lightning to retreat, forming a vacuum zone about a yard in size. Sitting there, he could see that deep within the black Thunder Sea, black divine lightning coiled like giant dragons, releasing terrifying power. "Let's begin," Mu Chen muttered to himself. A sharp light suddenly flashed in his black eyes. Everyone was preparing for the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition half a year later. Although he hadn't entered North Cang Gate, he knew that the cultivation there was undoubtedly dangerous. Everyone was training desperately, and he should put in the effort too. This half year had been full of great changes. In preparation for the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition, the top spiritual academies were using all kinds of methods to enhance their elite student strength. Half a year later, everyone's strength would soar. If he continued to be complacent about defeating Mu Chen, perhaps North Cang Spiritual Academy's expectations for him would turn to nothing. Mu Chen took a deep breath, looking at the black divine lightning coiling like dragons. A low, rumbling roar suddenly came from his throat. Boom! A vast and immense surge of spiritual energy suddenly erupted from his body. Boom! When his spiritual energy exploded within the Thunder Sea, it violently stirred the entire sea. A series of enormous black divine thunderbolts roared, tearing through the Thunder Sea, and began to relentlessly strike at the strange entity within the sea. Boom! The terrifying thunderclaps reverberated as a massive black divine thunderbolt, over 100 feet long, shot through the dark Thunder Sea. Its thunderous energy boiled the sea, ripping open a vast passage, and the black divine thunderbolt, resembling a fierce giant serpent, slammed into the tiny figure within the Thunder Sea. Bang! The thunderous shockwave caused the surrounding thunder essence within a 100-foot radius to explode, sending the small figure flying thousands of feet away. Lightning arcs danced violently across his body's surface, and he spat a mouthful of blood, which was instantly absorbed by the thunder essence and vanished. Mu Chen clutched his chest, his face pale, his body trembling with faint, rapid shudders. An indescribable, excruciating pain spread through his body, making him feel as if his entire frame was on the verge of shattering, with his bones feeling as though they were being crushed. This black divine thunder was truly terrifying. Had it not been for his small thunder god body and some resistance to the black divine thunder, he likely wouldn't have survived under such a bombardment. Mu Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a trembling hand. Before he could even recover, a deafening rumble echoed through the Thunder Sea once more. Another gigantic black divine thunderbolt, as fast as lightning, hurtled towards him and crashed into his body. Boom! Once again, he was sent flying thousands of feet, the blood at the corner of his mouth growing more pronounced. The black divine thunder in the Thunder Sea was endless, striking him one after another, with no sign of stopping. The sheer ferocity of the onslaught made it hard for him to catch his breath. Mu Chen's body was relentlessly thrown backward with each explosion. By now, his skin had turned a faint black, scorched by the repeated strikes. Blood oozed from his pores, a clear sign that his body had been shattered to pieces by the continuous barrage of black divine thunder. At this point, Mu Chen truly understood how terrifying his special training was. With each impact of the black divine thunder, Mu Chen could even sense the taste of death creeping closer. This training was nothing short of hellish. The situation was brutal, but facing each strike, each spurt of blood, Mu Chen's eyes slowly grew red. His breath became more labored. The pain inside his body, once unbearable, had become numb at a certain point. It was a bizarre pleasure that surged as he endured the excruciating agony, drowning his reason. To gain greater power in this world, one had to sacrifice far beyond what ordinary people could imagine. Over the past year, his strength had skyrocketed, and while others only saw the glory of his rise, they could never know the price he had paid for it. He had fought against enemies far stronger than himself time and again, teetering on the edge of life and death. Only by risking his life in countless battles had he come this far. He had overcome all the hardships, and now, how could this special training make him, Mu Chen, surrender here? Bloodshot veins crawled up Mu Chen's eyes as he wiped the blood from his mouth. Staring at the enormous black divine thunder coming from afar, roar rumbled from his throat. His body glowed with thunder runes, and he charged forward, like a mayfly shaking a giant tree, recklessly colliding with the black divine thunder. Boom! The massive explosion sent waves of thunder essence sweeping across the area, and Mu Chen's body was sent flying once again. Outside the Thunder Sea, the North Abyss Dragon Xu'er stood with his hands behind his back. He observed the young figure within the Thunder Sea, spitting blood and being thrown backward time and again. His ancient face was expressionless, but his eyes flickered slightly. By now, Mu Chen had endured 18 strikes from the Black Divine Thunder. Even someone who had passed the body tribulation would find such an assault nearly impossible to withstand, but this boy had persisted. This kind of determination and resilience made even the North Abyss Dragon Xu'er nod slightly. Mu Chen's ability to stand out in the Northern Sky Spirit Academy within such a short time truly proved his worth. He's really a little madman. When the North Abyss Dragon Xu'er saw Mu Chen once again endure 5 strikes of Black Divine Thunder, it finally smiled helplessly. At this point, it was clear that Mu Chen was running on empty. If he continued to force himself, something serious might happen. The North Abyss Dragon Xu'er moved, disappearing into thin air. When it reappeared, it was right in front of Mu Chen. With a flick of its sleeve, it scattered the incoming Black Divine Thunder, then said with a smile, "To endure over 20 strikes of Black Divine Thunder on your first try. Not bad. Take out your Thunder God Lotus, recover from your injuries, and then continue." This kind of training isn't about forcing yourself through it with burning eyes. You must grow stronger through the trials, or you won't be able to withstand it time and time again. Mu Chen forced a difficult smile. However, even this small movement made him feel as if his muscles were being torn apart, his flesh and blood burning from within. Still, he raised his finger and summoned the Thunder God Lotus, then collapsed weakly on top of it. His chest heaved as he gritted his teeth, enduring the excruciating pain as he sat cross-legged. His body had been utterly wrecked by the Black Divine Thunder, and he needed to heal quickly. Sizzle, sizzle. Black lightning arcs danced around his body, and the power of Black Divine Thunder continued to invade Mu Chen's body, hammering at his broken physique. Despite the spreading pain, Mu Chen could faintly feel that in the areas where the pain passed, his muscles, bones, and blood seemed to be quietly growing hotter. It was as if a power was subtly increasing within him. Clearly, the previous barrage of strikes had not only brought him pain and injury, but had also gradually strengthened his body. Though the increase was minuscule, Mu Chen believed that with enough accumulation, there would eventually be a breakthrough. Half a year of training had only just begun. Mu Chen sat cross-legged on the Thunder God Lotus. After about half an hour, he opened his eyes again. Some of the charred patches on his body peeled off, revealing his fair skin underneath. However, this fairness wasn't weak. It contained a frightening strength beneath the surface. Mu Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Though his body still pulsed with excruciating pain, he didn't even flinch and endured it with a stoic expression. He swayed slightly before standing up from the Thunder God Lotus, once again preparing to face the Black Divine Thunder head-on. The North Abyss Dragon Xu'er looked at him, furrowing its brow. "You're really pushing yourself too hard. Your mother isn't some simple figure. Why isn't she helping you? If she did, you wouldn't be in such a state right now." "My mother is extraordinary, but my father is very simple," Mu Chen smiled and softly replied. The North Abyss Dragon Xu'er was taken aback, then nodded slightly. "I see. So, with such a mother, it might not actually be a good thing for you." It seemed to know something, and its gaze toward Mu Chen grew tinged with a sense of pity. Given the nature of that family, they likely wouldn't tolerate this little guy. No wonder his mother couldn't stay by his side. "But I promised my father that one day, I'd bring my mother back," Mu Chen said slowly. The North Abyss Dragon Xu'er shook its head. "Even your mother, as strong as she is, couldn't do that. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had to leave you. Mu Chen lifted his head, gazing at the dark thunder sea, and seemed to smile faintly. In that case, I'll become even stronger than my mother, strong enough to crush whatever stands between us. Mu Chen threw his head back and laughed, then moved, his body shooting forward once again, his laughter echoing across the thunder sea. Spiritual energy erupted, and the thunder sea churned as waves of black divine thunder surged toward him. The North Abyss Dragon Kuan watched the slender figure of the young man in the distance and smiled slightly. This little guy certainly had big ambitions. However, that family wasn't to be underestimated. In the entire Great Thousand Worlds, they were a heavy presence. But who could say what this young man's future achievements might be? The world before him was a misty one, where the spiritual energy in the air was so overwhelming it bordered on terrifying. The spiritual energy gathered within this space, creating an incredibly oppressive force. Because of this, all plants, except for the mountains, were stunted and unusually sturdy. In the silent spiritual energy world, distant, heavy footsteps slowly echoed. Looking ahead, a group of figures could be seen drawing closer, stepping forward, one step at a time, heading toward the distance. This group was made up of young boys and girls, and at this moment, they were all gritting their teeth, their bodies slightly hunched. The spiritual energy within them, as soon as they entered this space, was suppressed by a terrifying pressure, turning it as stagnant as a dead pond, moving with extreme sluggishness. Every step they took consumed immense amounts of energy. The terrifying pressure made their bodies feel as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Is this North Songate? Damn, this is torture. I can barely stand it. Zhao Qingshan's face was pale. His steps staggered, sweat soaking his clothes. The aching in his body had exhausted him to the point of dizziness, as if his mind were spinning. Although no terrifying attacks were present, simply walking under such conditions was enough to drive someone to collapse. Ahead of him, Shen Songxing, Li Xiantong, and the others were also drenched in sweat, their lips cracked. Since entering North Songate, they had been walking continuously. The silence here felt like a deathly realm. If they weren't together, it would have been hard to keep going. 6 months of training, and this is just the beginning, Li Xiantong said in a hoarse voice. To gain strength, it's never going to be easy. If you can't take it, crush the Jade Talisman. Elder Zhu Tian and the others will bring you out. Zhao Qingshan forced a bitter smile and said, I'm not saying I'll quit, but can we take a short break? If we keep going like this, I feel like my body is going to explode. Mu Fengyang and the others exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. Shen Songxing and Li Xiantong looked at each other, both hesitating slightly. But as they hesitated, the girl in the black dress, who had been quietly following behind them, silently passed them. With a jade-like hand gripping her sword, she walked step by step toward the distance, sweat slipping down her hand, completely soaking the sword. Li Xiantong stared at her exquisite profile. The girl's lips tightly clenched, her eyes burning with the same stubbornness and determination that had existed years ago. Her gaze was as captivating as ever. Let's go. He sighed softly and took a heavy step forward to follow her. Zhao Qingshan and the others could only smile helplessly. A girl had persisted, and if they stopped now, they would be utterly embarrassed.